So they play, and they're amazing. We're backstage having a great time. And after they're done, they leave the stage, and we start going out there to set up. And it was me and I always like have a female bass player, right? We're out there in our little motorcycle jackets, and the crowd didn't leave. They sort of stayed, and their interest was piqued, at what they were going to hear next, I guess. And by the time we set up, there were actually more people there. And then as we played, the crowd grew. It was amazing. We're in freaking France, and we're playing this huge crowd. The people were literally throwing roses onto the stage. It was so cool.
Hello, welcome to 3 Gigs, the podcast that tells the stories of the 3 shows that have had a profound effect on a performer's life and career. Their very first show, their worst show, and their best show. My name is Dominic Davy, and today our guest is Nicole Laurenne of the Darts. This episode of 3 Gigs is brought to you by FreshCleanTees.com. It works like a shave club, but they send you t-shirts, super awesome t-shirts. And they have a special offer for all the listeners of 3 Gigs. Save 20% off your first order by going to FreshCleanTees.com and entering the coupon code GIG at checkout. That's FreshCleanTees.com with offer code GIG. Started in 2016, the Darts were formed by Arizona musicians Nicole Laurenne and Christina Nunez after their band The Love Me Nots disbanded. They recorded some tracks and reached out to 2 amazing musicians they had known for years. Ricky Styx of the 210s and many more bands. See episode 12 of 3 Gigs for more details on Ricky and all her bands. And Michelle Balderrama from Brainspoon. Ricky and Michelle would record their parts in Los Angeles, and before most bands have even gotten their act together, the Darts had 2 10-inch EP records defining their garage psych rock style with their screaming guitar riffs, amazing harmonies, fuzz bass, farfisa organ, epic drum fills, and according to Dirty Water Records UK, all around lo-fi turned hi-fi goodness. Since then, the Darts have toured Europe, played around the US, and have been praised by celebrities from Stephen King to Drew Carey, and they've only just released their first LP full-length, Me Ow, on Dirty Water Records USA, the label they formed themselves. So that's the facts. Here's the dirt. I've seen this band live, and they destroy. They're one of those bands that you watch and immediately realize there's something incredible and special about them. Their energy and joy on stage is infectious, and they're just a rad band. I've brought multiple people to see them only to watch them buy the new LP and both EPs right there on the spot. And we're talking jaded industry types here. Bitter musicians, people who've been to shows and seen tons of bands, just falling under this band spell. They're that good. Now I found out about them from becoming friends with the amazing Ricky Styx, and she was right. This entire band is filled with incredible musicians and wonderful people. But once I met Nicole, I knew I had to have her on the show so she could share her stories with everyone. Thankfully, she agreed to do the interview. In fact, she's done it twice. I know. The first interview didn't record right, so she agreed to do it again. What can I say? I'm not a journalist. I'm a bass player. I do the best I can, but she's a saint. I'm telling you. So that's enough preamble. This is Nicole's turn to tell her stories, and we're going to start with the very first show she ever played.
The first show I ever played, was, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was a classically trained pianist when I was growing up. So my first show I ever played. It was like a little recital in a church to like 8 parents. You know? It was like a little Mozart sonatina or something, you know. So it wasn't your average rock star first show, but yeah, it went well. It was well received.
Really,
yeah.
You got a good reaction from the audience. They started pitting. They really got into it.
I mean, I didn't have a merch booth or anything, but I think there was a potluck afterwards or something like that. Yeah,
it's the next best thing. If you can't have a merch booth with you on tour, like the Dart should bring out a potluck, and that would be the way to go.
Oh man, that's actually a great idea.
Actually, that is a really great idea. I remember that No Doubt used to, before their shows, they would throw spaghetti feeds. So you would come early and hang out with No Doubt as they made you spaghetti. I always thought that was rad.
That's an awesome idea.
Because it was cheap. They could make
brilliant.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. Who doesn't like spaghetti? That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, totally. So yours was a classical show. How old were you at the time when you had this?
I was probably like 8.
8 years old? All right. So you got the bug.
7 or 8.
You got the bug early, and like you were like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, actually, my parents had a little toy piano in the back of our van that they stuck in there to like to keep me busy. This was before anybody knew about seatbelts, you know. And we'd go on road trips like all over the place. Yeah, well, before that probably.
It's the 70s. It was even better.
And I would just be back there playing like, you know, bad Barbra Streisand songs and stuff. Yeah, those were the road trips.
That's awesome. That's kind of a cool idea. Just being in the back. Like, this is how we're gonna start. This is how we're gonna keep you occupied. Here's a piano.
Right. Exactly. They were very
cool.
patient.
So your initial training was classical music. That's funny because Oubliette, our keyboard player in Tsunami Bomb, is a classically trained pianist, and she also it affects her style on how she approaches songs and how she comes up with different material. You can tell she has a different way of looking at things than some of the rest of us. Yeah,
I think you start. I mean, I took a lot of music theory and all that stuff, and you can't ever lose that, you know. It's like kind of like a religion, you know. It just invades your brain, and it affects how you look at every bit of music you hear for the rest of your life, you know. So, yeah, it's a certain way of looking. It's a different lens, for sure, than most people have, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I'm assuming that you continued to play, like you got the bug, and you continued to play classical music and performances that ended in amazing potlucks for a while. But at what point did you start like shifting over to rock and getting the, you know, kind of moving over? Was it like puberty like the rest of us, or
you know, it was as I got busier with other things in my life, my classical chops started to die off. So it devolved into jazz. That devolved into rock. So I when I was in law school, I was playing jazz at the resorts and like the little piano lobby lounges, you know, and then the resorts in Tucson. And that kind of helped me pay my rent and stuff while I was in school. And that was fun, and it was good. You know, jazz is good. Love it. But you got to have some chops for that too. So as I got busier as a lawyer, didn't really have time for jazz anymore. So it became rock. And rock's, you know, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than the other two. So
that's really funny. I like also how it sounds like your career is literally your own personal trajectory of the history of music. Like you start with classical, you de-evolve to jazz, that leads you to rock. It's like I get it.
Yeah, you know, I should have started with Gregorian chants or something. You know,
that would have been a very interesting. I don't know if those like concerts would end in potlucks. They're kind of serious, but like I like where you're going.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Dude. I mean, they had the outfits at least. You know.
So you put yourself through school playing jazz. That's kind of epic. That's an epic thing to be able to say. To law school, no less.
I mean, it wasn't like it put me through school, but it definitely supplemented my income nicely.
It bought you the top ramen you needed to survive to another day.
Yes. It treated me well, and you know, they fed us and they gave us free drinks, and we got to dress up once a week and, you know, go play for celebrities and stuff who were hanging out in the resorts, and it was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so
Plus I learned like all the jazz standards, which is great. 'Cause that's just good training.
it's kind of fun to be able to pull that stuff out. See, being a bassist, like I can play a couple instruments okay, but I can never sit down and just bust out. And I've always been jealous of like Oubliette in our band, who can sit down at any like piano and start playing and get everybody going. Like, so you're obviously, and clearly you're able to do that too. You just sit down and be like, oh, how about this classic that everyone knows, Life of the Party.
Yes and no. Like what's funny is I think when you start with classical, you're used to reading music. You're used to having every note spelled out for you and being in somebody else's head. And then you go to jazz and you just have like a chart with like a one line of melody and the chords written out, and you have to sort of figure it out, and it's hard, man. It's really hard. And coming from classical, it's really hard. And then you go to rock and they hand you nothing usually, but if they hand you anything, it's just like, a piece of paper that says, CGA on it. And that's the song.
I was gonna say, I was like,
make a rock song out of that.
I was gonna say, you've been handed paper? Like I was like, wow, look at your fancy bands. Like I was sitting here going, like,
yeah, I know.
Any band I've ever stepped in that I didn't start myself, it was like, okay, this starts on C. You good? And I was like, sure. It's like those scenes.
Exactly.
From one of those, it's like, okay, key is C. Look at me for the changes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, wait, what? So.
And here's me. I'm like, C minor augmented. What are we doing here? Come on.
Yeah, you're looking for details. Like, where are we going?
Is it suspended? What's happening? Yeah.
I'll never forget, like this. There was a punk rock documentary, one of the millions of them. But there was a punk rock documentary, and it showed this like sign that was in this British club, I guess, or a New York club, I can't remember, and it would just basically said, "This is a E chord," and it showed like the tablature, and this is an A chord, and this is a D chord. Now go start a band. And I was like, yeah, that's about right for punk rock. There you go. So it's like you're not kidding when you say it de-evolved to what you're currently doing.
Yeah, it was definitely a different mindset. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so clearly you got the bug when you were 8, and you were like, okay, I like performing. I want to keep doing this, and then you evolved or de-evolved to jazz, started doing that, and then it further went like, okay, now I'm just gonna really just go for it and be in rock bands. So this is cool.
Yeah.
All while being responsible and doing going to law school and clearly becoming a lawyer. That's amazing of itself. If anybody has any idea how hard that is,
yeah, it's all right.
That's impressive. Yeah. You're like, yeah, whatever, I do that too. But no, it's still impressive. It's an impressive thing. Most people, that's all they can do. Like that's all they can focus on is that. So the fact that you were doing all these things. Okay, so what would you describe in your adventures as been one of your best shows?
Oh, no question. Best show was in France, in Le Mans. They have a motorcycle race there, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, it's called. And it's this huge thing where they have these huge festivals, music festivals at night after the race is over. And the New York Dolls were playing, and my old band, the Love Me Nots, were playing. And we were supposed to open for the New York Dolls, and we were like, this is so great, I mean, what's left of the New York Dolls, but anyway. So we were all excited about it, and then I wasn't counting at all. And we got there, and we found out that they decided they wanted to go on before us because there'd be a better crowd earlier. And so we're like, oh, dang it. Now everyone's going to leave. Are you kidding me? This is horrible. We're going to be playing to this giant festival, of like this field of litter. That's going to be left for us. But anyway, so they play and they're amazing. We're backstage having a great time. And after they're done, they leave the stage and we start going out there to set up. And it was me and I always like have a female bass player, right? We're out there in our little motorcycle jackets, and the crowd didn't leave. They sort of stayed, and their interest was piqued, at what they were going to hear next, I guess. And by the time we set up, there were actually more people there. And then as we played, the crowd grew, It was amazing. We're in freaking France, and we're playing to this huge crowd. The people were literally throwing roses onto the stage. It was so cool. It was so cool. It was like the best. It was the best experience of my life. You know, just having it all come together like that was. I don't think I'll ever top that.
That's amazing. Because honestly, like, I've had this experience before. I mean, I can even say, like, we were on tour. And we got a call. We needed a show. We got a call, and it said, "Oh, the Ataris have decided to let you play on their show." And I was like, "And it's awesome and it's okay with the promoter and everything." And we're like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" So in El Paso, Texas, we head out and we play, and we get there, and they're like, "Well, we get there to play, and we get there, and the Ataris are like, okay, so you guys will be playing right after us." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." Fuck me then.
I love being mop-up.
Yeah, it's like, that's awesome. And literally the crowd we played to was like, it was kind of like a cloud-shaped crowd after they had left so fast, kind of like Roadrunner and Coyote, where there's this little wafting away shape. Like, we played to the litter and to nobody. You know, I don't even think the Ataris barely stayed, you know, but I was like, oh, it's a show, whatever, you know, but... So it's amazing to hear that playing
We've
cleanup.
all done that.
Yeah.
So that's why this story, it makes no sense. It was the coolest thing.
It shouldn't have happened.
It turned around the way it did. Yeah, it shouldn't have happened.
But
especially not this amazing thing. You know, like, it was great.
That's so cool. I like that they were throwing roses. Nobody's ever thrown roses at me. That's amazing.
I know. You know what? This is the thing about Europe. I mean, they get it. It's bizarre. Yeah, it was really awesome.
It's funny. It's consistent.
I have a picture of me somewhere holding a rose on stage. My drummer took it from the stage that night, and it's me holding a rose with this huge crowd behind me. Like, oh God,
that's so awesome. But it's so funny because on this show, it's consistently coming out that everybody's best shows are European shows, almost every time. And I have to say, that's not. I mean, I've never told my stories on this show yet, but like, it's about the same for me. I mean, Europe is really amazing. Like, what do you think is the difference there? I mean, just to throw that one out at you, because it's like, I get it so often.
You know, I don't really, I'm trying to figure that out myself, but I think everything's kind of better over there. Like well, the food is better, and the air is better, and I don't know. It's just, there's a mentality there, and I don't want to overstate it, but there's a sense of quality matters. And so the crowd that goes to hear music, they almost don't care what genre it is. When you look at a European crowd at a rock show, there are people who are obviously into metal, and there are people who are obviously into, you know, punk and country and all kinds of weird stuff. And they're all at the show, and they all appreciate it because they know it's good. I mean, they just say, I don't know. It's like they can appreciate a great glass of wine and a great, you know, tomato and a great rock song. I don't know. It's something that's really deep over there. It runs through the whole culture.
Yeah, maybe it's just less pretense to some degree. Like they hold themselves back less. I had one person suggest something I never thought of, because I remember back in the 90s, completely dating myself here, and before then, like, I felt like when I went to shows, it was crazier. Like, I went to more crazy shows then where things just went all the way off. Like, things, you know, and I wouldn't have said, like, some of the greatest shows that I went to as a fan were during that time, because just everything went crazy. And for a while I thought that it was because I was younger and not the old bitter man that I am of after being so many shows. But on the episode I spoke to Stacy from Bad Cop Bad Cop. She suggested that the one thing that's changed in America since the 90s is the level and the amount of people who are on medication. And that she wondered if antidepressants and different medication has
that's a really interesting point.
Everyone down. And I never thought about that.
Especially in America. I don't think it's the same overseas.
No, it's not.
I think Americans are definitely they like their pills for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a fact, is that America is far more medicated than elsewhere. And I'm not. And it was not stated as a judgment. It wasn't stated as a judgment of like, oh, it's wrong that people are on medication. That wasn't the point. But the point was,
no, not at all.
It is a statistical fact that from the 90s to now, the amount of medications, opiates, antidepressants that are being utilized are so much higher. And she was like, and that stuff, she goes, if you've ever done that, she goes, then you know that it's kind of taking the volume down. And so she goes, not to say that people can't go off, and not to say we haven't had shows that have been amazing, but one thing that has changed is that there are a lot more people who aren't going to necessarily let themselves go like they may have once have. They're just going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy the show, but maybe it takes a lot more. It takes a lot more of a moment to build that momentum, whereas Europe, it's still like people just go off and they just enjoy the moment of this show. And there's no necessary science to back that up. It's just a theory that she proposed, but since she said that, it really like blew me away.
I think that's really insightful, really insightful. And I just think Europeans in general also they sort of lose themselves in the moment, just culturally more than we do at this point in time for whatever reason. I mean, when they stop for, I mean, you've toured Europe. When you stop for coffee, you don't just grab coffee in a cardboard cup and go back into your car and drink it while you drive.
Oh,
they stop and they pour it into a ceramic mug and they sit together and they talk with the guy that served you the coffee, and they have like a whole hour-long like moment, and they don't care. I mean, it's like that moment means something to them, It
really
and
does.
we skip all that stuff here. We're too busy for that.
It's interesting too, yeah, because I'll never forget when I encountered the middle of the day break that happens in much of Europe, where all of a sudden everything's closed, and you're like, "Oh, I missed the window of lunch. There's nothing. Oh,
there's nothing.
Nothing going on. We're stopping now. Okay, well, I guess I'll sit in the van and nap because
right. That's what you're supposed to do.
I was like, I'm gonna walk around aimlessly and look at all these closed shops. Like, this feels really weird. And yeah, it's just dead for hours in the middle of the day. Like, they take like, what is it, like a 2-hour lunch, 2-hour
like 2 hours
shutdown.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour siesta, and you can't get anything done.
Yeah, that's it. You're
Nothing.
not. Nope. That's it. It's like, and the entire city's on break, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I was not ready. So after that, I was ready. Like, first thing in the morning, I bought food for that time period. I was like, okay,
yeah,
I'm ready.
Yeah, once you get into the rhythm, it makes great sense, because then you're like, oh, okay, maybe I will have that glass of wine at 1 in the afternoon. Take a nap. This is great.
Totally.
This makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that people touring Europe need to know. It's like, there are parts of Europe that will just shut the F down if you are there, and if you're not ready for it, well, it sucks to be you for about 2 hours, because you are doing nothing.
It sucks to be you. Yeah.
It's like you just start staring at the ocean, because that's all you got. There's nothing going on. But that is pretty amazing.
Which is good for you. Yeah.
And that is pretty amazing story about your best show, because like Jello actually was the one that told me about your previous band, because he was saying like how much he loved it when I spoke to him.
Oh,
and,
that's nice.
Yeah, no, and I was able to tell him about your current band and be like, but you gotta see the Darts. And so it was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome to be able to be like, actually, I don't think I've told you this. During our conversations, he and I'm telling him about the Darts and describing the Darts, and he goes, yeah, that kind of reminds me of another band in Arizona that I really liked. And it took us a minute to realize we're both talking about you. So, like, it literally happened in the conversation, whereas, like, the way I was describing it, he was going, if you like them, another band out of Arizona is really good. Kind of same kind of thing. The singer has a keyboard, and it's like, we start talking, and then he's like, wait, is the Darts Nicole? And I was like, I think that's her name, because I hadn't really met you. I just kind of knew of you through Ricky, and I was like, wait, yes, we are talking about the same person. It was an amazing. We started laughing. I was like, we're like geeking out over your two bands, and it turned out to just be you. So that really happened, and you deserve to know that conversation happened.
Well, that made my day. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. That was took us a long time to figure it out, longer than it should have, considering that the internet exists. But So if that's the story of your best show, and and having roses thrown at you really does probably take the cake as the best show.
Yeah, I'm never gonna top that ever. It's just fine. That's cool.
It's pretty well. You're like, oh, this is a moment. What would be a good example of one of the worst shows that you had to do? Like even or a moment on. I've been giving people a pass on this because nobody ever wants to talk bad about a club or a person. Like, 'cause people try, and it's not always. Occasionally, you run into someone terrible, but it could also be a moment where you were just like, "Dear God, what have I done? Why am I doing this? Why am I right here in this moment? God help me."
Yeah. Okay. I got it. I got this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Houston, which I love, by the way, but Houston, my old band, Love Me Nots, arrives in Houston in our rented minivan with our gear, and it's like, nighttime. We're loading into this club. It's upstairs, so we have to lug everything up the stairs.
Oh, I hate stairs.
We play this show. It was like a Tuesday night. I mean, there was like there were maybe 3 people were there. Okay, so we're playing, and it was like it was like that surreal nightmare that you always have where you're playing a show and something breaks and you can't do anything about it. But it actually happened. My keyboard leg fell off.
Oh, God.
It collapsed.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I played basically this show to 3 people in Houston sitting on the floor with the keyboard on top of me, basically just, well, I guess I'll just keep playing. And so that sucked. And it was like a nightmare come true. And we had a whole tour ahead of us, and somehow I had to get this thing fixed. So I'm trying to figure that out. And the show's over. We make 0 money, of course.
Of course.
And we load back down the stairs, and it's pouring rain now outside. And we load all our gear like on the sidewalk. And Christina runs over to get the van, and it's not there because it's been towed.
Oh no!
Now we're standing in the rain with no money. Our van has been towed because it had been parked in some wrong parking spot.
Of course.
And my keyboard's broken, and it's 3 a.m. in Houston. And we're at this point we're calling multiple taxis so that we can fit all our gear into taxis to take us to the tow lot.
Oh no!
We had to pay like $300 to get it out of the tow lot, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Everything about that night absolutely sucked. There you go.
Oh, that's a rough
show.
one. And I like Houston. I love Houston too. I mean, I was just there stuck in the hurricane because we were on tour and we were supposed to play. We were doing a run. I should say a run of shows in Texas, and we were supposed to play Houston. The Hurricane Harvey hit. Everybody got out, but me. My plane got canceled,
Oh no!
And I literally watched people fly away. They all got away, and then I was stuck there for the duration of the hurricane until I could get out. And I luckily our one of our crew members lives out there, so I got to stay with him. And though I love Houston, you're not the first person to bring up Houston in this particular segment of the show, and I'm so sorry for everyone in Houston. I really am, because I do have a lot of friends there. I think they're wonderful people. I think I've had some amazing shows, especially since Sinan Bomb came back. I've had some amazing shows out there. But I was like, yeah.
So the Darts have had great. We had one of the best shows of our whole last year's tour was in Houston. It's a great city. We had tons of fun there. But there's something about that night. Everything went wrong.
Everything just went south.
And that wasn't Houston's fault.
It was.
It just happened.
It just happened. There's those perfect disaster shows that happen where it's just like one hit after another, where you're like, oh God. And it just the hits
you stand there
coming.
like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Right.
And you keep saying that all night long.
Yeah, you're just like super vulnerable. I guess because you're so vulnerable to things going wrong when you're touring. Like, because if something snags, you're just like, oh, what do we do now? Like, how are we gonna do?
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I
exactly. You feel like you're everything's on a perfect, like, a balance. You're walking on a balance beam when you're on tour, and if things go the wrong direction, it can really mess up everybody.
Yeah. No, it can snag it all. Well, that's amazing. I'm glad the Darts have been able to enjoy Houston the right way, so that's good.
Yes. And the Darts, I also have had some amazing experiences too. I didn't really talk about the Darts on this show, but yeah, I mean, we played Europe in May, and we played all the Italian beach cities for some reason and literally jumped off the stage into the ocean in our outfit. It was fantastic. I mean,
that's amazing.
It's amazing what rock and roll does for you, isn't it?
You know,
it takes you so many weird places.
It's kind of funny because, especially like for me, I've done other bands, obviously, other than Tsunami Bomb. I've done a number of bands, and I even did a number of bands between Tsunami Bomb. But Tsunami Bomb was like one of the 3 bands I've done that toured a lot, and out of all the bands I've done. And I will say this: that after it's all done, and after you're not touring like that anymore, it's those moments. The moments where you jumped off stage, ran over, and jumped into the water with some of your favorite people in the world, that like matters so much that you remember. It's like a lot of the shows fade into a memory of like just crazy shows that you played, with the exception of, it's kind of like, that's kind of why I did this show, is like I wanted to talk about these specific moments that stand out in everybody's memory, first, best, worst. But most of them kind of start blending together. But it's those moments of being able to like jump in the ocean on the Italian coast is that you never forget, and you never expected. Never. So it's kind of worth it, and I really appreciate those things a lot more. And it seems like when I saw you guys on the road, like when you guys came to San Francisco, it's like you guys are definitely keyed into hanging out with each other and having those adventures. There's no question the Darts.
Oh my gosh,
about adventures.
This band, our motto is, put us in a box, we'll still have a party. Like, we don't care. The 4 people in this band are so much fun, and they love having a good time, and they love each other, and there's so much respect for each other, and everybody helps with everything, and it's like the coolest thing. It's the coolest band I've ever been in. It's been one party after another the entire time. Just so much fun.
Been listening to Nicole Laurenne of The Darts. You can find out more about The Darts by going to their website at thedarts.us, or check out their record label at dirtywaterrecordsusa.com. Their new album, Me Ow, is out now and in stores everywhere, and you really need to check them out. Thank you so much for tuning in to 3 Gigs. Feel free to check out our website at 3gigspodcast.com to find extras and live footage of all of our guests, including some live footage of The Darts, which is not to be missed. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram just by searching 3 Gigs Podcast, and you can let us know what you think of the show and let us know who you would like to see as a guest in the future. And if you're enjoying the show and you'd like to do the show a solid, please head over to our iTunes page and give us a quick rating and review just by searching 3 Gigs on iTunes. iTunes uses the amounts of ratings and reviews to determine the reach of the show. The more we have, the more people find us, so a review and a rating would be much appreciated. If you have Spotify, feel free to check out the 3 Gigs playlist of awesome. There's a link on our website at 3gigspodcast.com as well. Every week I add songs to the list from our guests, and it's a pretty rad compilation nowadays. Our theme music today was The Cat's Meow off the brand new LP called Me Ow by The Darts, and it's out now on Dirty Water Records USA. And we're closing out with Running Through Your Lies by The Darts off of The Darts 2 EP, out now on Dirty Water Records UK. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Dominic Davey. This has been 3 Gigs. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next week. If you listen to this podcast, chances are you like music, and if you like music, you probably wear a lot of t-shirts, or at the very least know someone who does. Well, why not get brand new, blank, fresh, clean t-shirts sent directly to you? Well, you can. FreshCleanTees.com works like a shave club, but instead of razors, they send you super soft, affordable t-shirts. And getting it all going is easy. You choose between monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly delivery options, answer a few questions about your favorite styles, your size, and what colors you like, and you're good to go. Fresh Clean Tees likes 3 gigs so much, they have a special offer for all of our listeners. You can head over to freshcleantees.com right now and use promo code GIG for 20% off your very first order. That's promo code GIG at checkout and get 20% off your first order. Now, I love the t-shirts they sent me, and I know you'll love yours. So head over to freshcleantees.com right now and use order code GIG while you can.